I think he can hear you, Ray.
Don't move. It won't hurt you.
I feel the need for speed. Ow! So together we're the Three Amigos.
Right here. Stop.
Batman, what happened? Are you okay?
He's slimy.
It's getting hot in here. Is it just me?
No, go past this. Past this part. In fact, never play this again.
Good evening. Welcome to our Monday night movie review. How are you, Beard of Liberty?
I'm pretty good. You decided to switch up the intro on me. I thought, okay, here we go. No, there's a little bit more.
Yeah, I just threw that in there. I forgot that had the countdown on there.
Yeah, it didn't hurt to mix it up every now and then. I just wasn't prepared for it, and you know what? That keeps me on my toes.
It does. And welcome everyone to After the Weekend, where we review movies from our past and childhood. And tonight we're going to review. We're continuing the review of some X-Men movies because one, we really enjoyed the X-Men cartoon in the 90s, and there were some really cool X-Men movies in the early 2000s, and there's a kind of a really neat, hopefully a really good X-Men movie coming out here at the end of the month. And we're going to review the movie that supposedly kicked that off. So we're going to cover that in a bit. How was your weekend? Was it okay?
Pretty good. As per usual, if you know me, yard work. That's what I do.
No. You do yard work?
Yeah, it's surprising.
Ghost ride the whip. Ghost ride the whip. Ghost ride the whip. Ghost ride the whip. Now,
and that is way more accurate to how I look as opposed to the other one you occasionally play.
Okay, this one.
Yeah, we've had some hurricane cleanup here. Thankfully, anybody I know was spared from the worst of it.
Good.
It was just kind of mild cleanup, little branches, a bunch of leaves. There's a couple of larger things down that I still have to deal with, but you know what? All things considered, we got off lucky, considering a lot of other people in my area that have been without power. Some of them still
without power.
Yes.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, I know it was compared to some others, I guess it was a mild hurricane, but it still knocked some power out of people. And it seems like Texas has had multiple power outages this year.
Specifically in my area, there's a certain company called Centerpoint that apparently is going to be drawn or called down to Austin to sit in front of the Texas legislature and answer for why they were the worst responders. I'm sorry, we don't need to get into Texas hurricane politics.
Let the romance begin.
Romancing the bone.
I would much rather that than things we've gone through here. So yeah, let's just continue on.
All right. Well, yeah, I had a pretty good weekend. It was kind of fun. We did some yard work. We celebrated a birthday for someone, so it was fun. We had a good time.
Excellent.
So if you if you missed the stuff from last month, or not last week, sorry, we reviewed X-Men Origins and Deadpool, and So now we're reviewing Days of Futures Past. So this one was pretty recent. I mean, not really recent, but I guess it was 2014, almost 10 years ago.
I think it's 2013 because if I remember correctly, and I don't think I don't think I'm spoiling any facts I have from later on. I think the original storyline was the future was 2013 and sent back from there. So in this movie, the present is 2013, sent back from what is suggested to be 2023, which would be our past. Now that, getting older and watching these types of movies kind of gets confusing.
Yeah, so the movie was supposed to, yes, it came out in 2013-14. And it was supposed to take place in, I think, 2020 something, 23 or 24, 10 years. And then it also it goes to the 70s. So why not?
Yeah, and this is kind of like two different movies. So this is almost like a double feature because it's kind of hard to cover this just as one movie in itself.
It is a double movie, and it kind of picks up where we left off with the First Class X-Men, where you have young Magneto and young Professor X and some other young X-Men. So you do get to see you get a continuation of origin stories. And there are a few origin stories in this movie. Very, very little small ones, but they are in here. And some of them get joked about. And we'll go over that here in a little bit. So like the reason why we're reviewing X-Men on this, I said earlier, yes, we were a fan of the X-Men movie or video games, X-Men TV show, cartoon, movies when we were a little younger. And Deadpool and Wolverine are coming out. And some say this movie that we're about ready to review, Days of Future Past, hey, what's up, Wookie? Make sure you hit the like button, by the way. Kicked off what we had this Deadpool. So how we had that
and
weird
in general,
Deadpool.
Both the movie we're talking about now and the movie that's coming out are kind of like timeline resets, and we'll get into that a little bit later more on this movie's kind of effect. But they're timeline resets centered around Wolverine, so it seemed appropriate.
Yeah, so I mean, Wolverine seems to be always included in some type of reset movie. But yeah, he's in this one. He's in Days of Future Past. He's very popular. So again, they say Days of Future Past was pretty much the movie that, like I said, allowed us to have Deadpool. So this movie, Days of Future Past, is based on an actual comic story. These are some of the covers that cover that storyline, the Day of Future Past storyline. Basically, there are some similarities between the comic and the movies. We'll probably go over that here in a little bit. But I always wanted. Last time we brought up covers of last two films that we did, so I wanted to share these as well. So it's pretty cool, as you see in the back there, all the dead mutants, and then like Wolverines and Katie are left, and yeah, most likely spoilers.
Probably.
Yeah, if it's a movie that's literally 10 years old, you'll probably get spoilers. And this is a kind of a bleak story. I mean, a lot of these X-Men die, which we see in the movie. Which we see in the movie. There's only basically two X-Men that kind of save the future, and that's what they're doing. Basically, the storyline is what sends someone in the past to change the future. Now, we've reviewed a lot of movies like that here on After the Weekend. We could name quite a few, but it seems to be a fun storyline to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it is kind of interesting, especially because if you know the comics, they obviously deviated from them. They deviated from the comics from the beginning, so they obviously had to kind of cobble together a storyline that kind of was similar to the comics, but they'd established timelines and characters and places that wouldn't necessarily work And
Right.
we'll get into that a little bit more later.
So one of
But
the vision, the both of versions is a little different. There's some changes to it, but basically the premise of the story is pretty much the same.
Yes.
So they try to change the future to save the current world. And one thing that this movie did, just like another movie happened to be doing at this time. We have who invited Wolverine?
Oh no.
How's it going, guys?
you literally sound like this.
Rise and shine. And don't forget your booties, because it's cold.
I can't even pretend like I don't know anything because I did not know he was showing up today. So
It's funny because it's opposite of that right now. It's way too hot for the booties.
Okay, well,
it really is.
You do sound. Are you excited to be on the show?
Yeah. I just don't have a lot of energy these days. I'm sorry.
That was Beard when you came in. So
I was a little surprised. I'm not going to say I cursed, but roll it back, see if it happens.
How are you? Welcome.
Thanks. I'm good.
Did you have any input on any of this? Since you're now on the show?
I remember reading this as a kid, and I was like, "Oh my God, Wolverine died."
He did. Well, hey, you're ruining things.
Oh, it's given away in that cover. Come on, if you haven't read it by now, that's not my fault.
Yeah, let's be honest. In the movie, Warpath got the Wolverine treatment.
A few people got the treatment.
Yeah.
This, I would definitely say, I was thinking about this, and because Bryan Singer came back to direct this one, he hadn't been directing them for a while,
right.
And I kind of think this might be the best X-Men film that Fox has done. A lot of people say X2 is, but I think I like this one a bit more.
Yeah. Okay.
And the biggest reason why is there's no Jean Grey and there's no Cyclops.
Oh, okay. Well, I would agree with that. But this movie, we'll get into this details a little later. But this movie actually erases X2, so you don't have to defend that too much.
That's true. That's very true.
All right. So just like other movie at this time, we had, I think, the following year in 2015, we had approaching was Avengers 2, Age of Ultron. So that had a big cast coming up. So this one had its own big cast. I mean, look at the amount of X-Men in this movie. I'm pretty sure they show enough of them.
It's a great cast, and even some of them who get relatively little screen time. Colossus in this doesn't get a lot of screen time. Still love what he brought to the screen. Obviously, Bishop, as a massive fan of the cartoon in the 90s.
I thought that was AJ. If you're watching.
No. See, that's Bishop. He loves energy, not Nala from Lion King.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was going to say, I love when Colossus gets dropped.
Yeah, and the interesting. Yeah, very cool. A lot of cool power combinations happening in this movie, like you would do in the video game, right? The X-Men video game.
Oh yeah. Who is it? What's her name? Blink, I think. Just like dropping portals everywhere. That was fantastic. That was really good fight choreography.
Yeah, even Katie, and let's see. There's quite a few of them that team up.
Who the hell is Katie?
What did I say? What?
You said Katie.
Did I say Katie?
You mean Kitty Pryde?
Oh, well, I guess it's Kitty, whatever.
Yes, which we will always refer to as Kitty Pryde because we don't want to get canceled otherwise.
Well, I was going to say the other thing, too, because you brought up a really good point about this film and what came out kind of coincide with it was Age of Ultron. And this film has same character in two different movies.
Okay, you're jumping the gun here. If you would have showed up earlier.
And I'm just saying. I was gonna say it really stands out with their version.
Yeah, well, you're jumping the gun again.
You know, if my dad start fighting, I just kind of disassociate and go to my happy place.
It's okay, Rick. I'm glad you're here. But yeah, big cast. A lot of people from the original X-Men movies.
And actually, Rogue there on the left was barely featured in the feature length or the feature version of this film. I think she had 3 seconds and no dialogue.
Yeah, but if you watch what I watched, which was called the Rogue cut.
Yes, which I think is the better cut.
Okay. Yeah, that's one I watched earlier, and I was like, "Wait, she's in it more."
Because
So,
I forgive me if I'm jumping the gun, but as they establish with their timeline is when the past and the present are existing at the same like flow rate until everything ends, and at that point things change.
right.
If that's the case, then Kitty Pryde should have been there transmitting Wolverine's consciousness back for like 3 days and never stopping. Which kind of that is my biggest problem with as far as like suspension disbelief, and bringing Rogue in later on to kind of take over and do that, I think was a good move and probably should have happened earlier. But that's a very minor nitpick.
You're oh yeah, I mean I get it. I understand where you're coming from. But it's an outstanding cast. I mean, I think this group of X-Men is fun. You know, I always enjoy.
You get the best of both worlds because both Fassbender and McAvoy and McKellen and Stewart, they all did fantastic performances for those characters, and to see them in the same movie, especially at the point where you see McAvoy and Stewart acting against each other, is fantastic.
And yeah, and I always enjoyed Jennifer Lawrence as Raven. I always thought she did that character well.
I bet you did.
I did. And
I did too, ain't gonna lie.
But the 3 main characters really in this movie are, of course, Wolverine, Magneto, and Professor X, who's walking, by the way.
Yes, I had totally forgotten that he was taking like an elevated dose of beast serum to both suppressed his mutant abilities, but also allowed healed his spine.
Is that weird?
He had a trade-off where he could either walk and be quote unquote a normal person, or be who he is and subject himself to constant voices in his head.
So are you saying if you were to take that serum, you would have hair on your head?
I don't know. Maybe he definitely had hair on his head than this.
And then, you know, basically, so yeah, they have. It's like I said, this is all kind of a little bit after First Class. So Magneto's in prison, like a really government secured lockdown prison where everything's plastic. Wolverine is traveling in his body, but from the future, and he's like, what the heck is going on? And he's like kind of a younger self. And then you've got
his consciousness has been projected into the past. It gets complicated, folks. We'll get into it later.
I want you to explain all this, by the way.
Oh,
and then you know, like I said, we already said Professor X he's got hair and he's walking around. But they team up because they realize that they have to kind of team up, even though they literally all hate each other in some form or way.
Well, because later on in the future, they've made up and they're working together, that's kind of how Wolverine brings them together. Is like when they break Magneto out, he's like, why would you help me? It's like, well, Charles and you sent me to help you from the future.
Yeah.
And that like, they're both smart enough characters, both Charles and Eric Magneto, to realize if we agreed at some point that we needed to work together, it's serious.
Right. And this takes place supposedly before the movie we just reviewed, X-Men Origins.
Yes, because Wolverine has bone claws. He has no adamantium.
Yeah, so they kind of are trying to reset a lot of X-Men movies here. Rick, did you have anything to add about these 3 folks? These 3 X-Men?
I don't know. Professor X and Magneto are both kind of douchebags.
Wow.
Well, yes. I mean, Patrick Stewart, Professor X, did tell Wolverine before he went back, like he didn't have his powers in because he knew he was in a dark place and basically abusing treatment for his spine to suppress his mutant.
Yeah, he said he wasn't in a good place. He was
Yeah.
just kind of
Rise and shine. And don't forget your boots.
That's actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Oddly enough,
he was, and like I said, Magneto was in prison, so
for the offing
Plastic
of JFK.
prison.
yeah, I said that plastic prison. Everything was plastic, and plastic guns, plastic bullets, but I think his walls were metal.
Concrete.
Well,
They're
what they
concrete.
said there was it was concrete and sand with no rebar.
Okay. Okay. All right. Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. And he also apparently saved JFK, but they thought he murdered JFK, and that's why
Yes, he was
ended up in the
trying to save JFK because apparently in this universe, JFK was a mutant
prison. I
whose
wonder what his power would have been.
his power, I looked it up, was
Affairs.
like it kind of it was basically like his charisma was his mutant ability. Like he immediately
okay.
like made people like him.
Like him. Okay, that makes sense. That's pretty cool.
He flashed his giant teeth at people, and they like blushed at him. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah, like I could totally see that though. I could see like his charisma being like a sense of power, right? That you can.
That totally explains "Happy Birthday, Mr. President."
It does. And very cool. That's a good fun fact. All right. Sorry, StreamYard would not let us share our slides normally, so I have to like jump through like a bunch of different freaking tabs. So here we go.
StreamYard is having some issues right now. We're making do, folks.
Yeah. Okay. So this is, I don't know if you really call him a villain. I would really just kind of call him a weirdo.
I would call him a villain.
I guess he is a villain in some way. Like he wants to so this is his character here. He's played by Peter Dinklage. I'm sure Rick has a joke about him. This is Bolivar Trask.
Bolivar Trask. And apparently, see, I'm gonna sprinkle in little facts here and there that I didn't include for my facts later on.
Awesome.
Is that one of the reasons that they chose Peter Dinklage was not just his performance in Game of Thrones, but being different from normal humans. One could consider him technically a mutant, being short, which would be kind of like a self-hating sort of characterization, which I actually kind of find pretty interesting. Because he's not as normal as everybody else, but his whole goal is to find non-normal people and eliminate them.
Very true.
I just want to know, what does he take later in life to turn into a tall, bald black man like he does in X3?
That's right.
Yeah, because it's Bill Dukes, I think is the guy's name. The guy who was buddies with the Jesse Ventura and Predator. He plays Bolivar Trask in X3.
We're dealing with multiverses now. Don't
I'm just saying,
point out details.
Maybe they had the same name. And maybe they had the same name, or maybe he took the same stuff that Two-Face did in Batman. So
maybe that's his dad, and he's a junior.
So one thing to mention here, while we're on it, the differences between this and the comic is this character here, though. They used a different person. So he's actually based off a different. He's just a different character that they. I think they're going after. I think he was supposed to be a senator. Robert Kelly.
Yeah, they were supposed to use the senator, but they had already used him in one of the other X-Men films and decided to use something different, not only for the time period difference, but not to avoid kind of retreading the same.
They pulled a reverse Netflix.
Yeah.
Yes, basically, yeah.
Well, he invents. He doesn't like mutants. He wants to stop them because he thinks they will take over the world.
I mean, he does read a a portion of a paper published by Professor Xavier on how Homo sapiens were the result of the extinction of the Neanderthal due to their natural superiority. And so he aligns that with the, what is it in the X-Men universe?
Homo superior.
Homo superior. The mutants will eventually be the extinction of humanity.
Yeah.
Which is, let's be honest, a reasonable concern.
Yeah.
I will not. I'm going to
But,
build giant robots.
I was thinking, who's taller, me or this guy? So.
No comment.
He does have a good mustache, but anyways, he does. He's a very intelligent man. He's almost like I could compare him to like a Elon Musk, right? He's a scientist. He's a very intelligent, and he invents the Sentinels, right? So
he does.
He invents the first edition of them, which throughout the TV shows, the comics, the other movies, we've seen these machines before,
and I like these designs.
Yeah, I like this one. This was more accurate to the.
We're gonna blow dry the mutants to death,
dude. That's their.
Well, I mean,
jet
it makes sense if you're gonna have something that big that flies. But yes, it does kind of look ridiculous. But for like the fans of the cartoon back in the day, this was pretty. This is pretty good.
I get it. I mean, they were cool to see. I just that made me think of like a Mega Man character.
Well, if you actually look at some of the comics, they do have especially the design of the comic books, they do have that style circle in front of them. They just never explained what that was, and they have that like Magneto-looking helmet, right? The glowing eyes. I remember those from the cartoon, and they were very big in the cartoon. They were massive.
Oh yeah, they were like 3 or 4 times as big as what we see right here.
But this is like first generation. They do evolve.
Yeah.
And they kind of. So this is Richard Nixon. It's the 7th. I think it's 73. I don't think he gets impeached or he doesn't resign in this universe. And then he says we're going to use, because of Peter Dinklage's character, we're going to use these machines to protect us from the mutants, because Richard Nixon does also believe that the mutants have some
the way it works is that let me see if I can do this really quick. Wolverine's consciousness is sent back in time to his old body to prevent Mystique from killing Bolivar Trask, because doing so makes people believe that mutants are an actual risk. So then they implement the Sentinel program. But in trying to stop her, they expose humanity to the danger that is mutants, which makes President Nixon implement the Sentinel program. And so they have to stop it here and now, because if it goes any further, especially because they're trying to get Mystique's DNA, which can mutate to basically anything she needs, and implement that into the future version of the Sentinels that we see at the future points that we see earlier. I know this is getting confusing, folks. If you haven't seen this, it's not my fault, it's yours.
Well, he's right. They do eventually evolve to something where they're pretty much unstoppable from the X-Men, because they can like predict their powers, they can regenerate their powers, they can.
Yeah, it's kind of insinuated that it's for each mutant that is captured and killed and studied, their powers are imbued on the next generation of Sentinels.
And they're also connected in some way, so they can share that information. Now, one thing in the comics versus this is they're more ruthless in the movie. Like the things they do in this movie, like how they kill them, which they do kill mutants, but they're more ruthless in this movie. They're very sinister, like Terminator in the movie.
I can't remember. Do they refer to the futuristic ones as Nimrod?
No, I don't remember that.
Because I want to say, like that's who it's supposed to be based off of.
No, They are
Maybe I don't
they're-
recall it though.
I don't recall that. I could be wrong, but they are called the Sentinels throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. No, I'm just curious because
So like in the comics they didn't just kill them. They like put them in camps. And then they like studied him that way. But in the movie, and then like their empire kind of expands and they like literally have a nuclear war, but like basically in the movie they're just very like just destroy and then we'll take their power.
Yeah, so the origin of the Sentinels is that mutants were captured, dissected, they'd find the origin of their power and kind of implement it, and eventually the Sentinels kind of evolve into this like hybrid techno-organic sort of thing. But the problem with the real problem with the future is not that they're wiping out mutants, is they're detecting people who have a gene that might result in a mutant child or even a mutant grandchild, and then wiping them out just preemptively. So as a result, most of humanity has just been wiped out, and anybody who still lives is held within camps.
So anyone who has like a hint of mutant DNA is gone.
Yeah.
And that would be, if you think about it, if you remember from our Deadpool review, that would be Wade Wilson. He had a little bit of mutant DNA. So he would be one of these people.
This plot would have been interesting if you think about it, introducing other characters being involved, not just the mutants. Like imagine like Hulk being there.
Yeah, well, we couldn't have that.
No, I know. I'm just saying though, if you kind of think about it, like with how evolved that, or how much they can evolve, it'd be interesting to see. Could Hulk defeat him? I mean, it almost seems like he could do it for a period, but at some point.
Well, there is a character that I thought would have been very cool to have in this movie, but we didn't get it.
George of the jungle.
I thought you were gonna say Juggernaut. I didn't know you were going there.
All right, well, we're gonna do numbers. Why Beard is embarrassed, so we're gonna do the we're gonna do
11, 92, 12,
all right, so the numbers 2014. This movie came out about 10 years ago. Actually, exactly 10 years ago, I believe. This is not as fancy as what our buddy R2 does here. We keep it pretty simple between me and Beard. But it's budget and gross worldwide. So this is when you people in the chat, thanks for coming by and hanging out. But what
do you mean, you people in the chat?
I mean, you people in the chat. You guessed the budget and you guessed the worldwide. Now, if you're watching this after the fact, you can put a comment and see if you were close. I would like to know. Now, Beard, what do you think it is? Hey, love it. Now, remember, X-Men Origins was really high for that movie.
You asked me to remember a week ago. I don't remember.
I am asking you to remember. And Deadpool was 2 years after this, and that movie was about the same as I think Origins.
Yeah, Deadpool was.
And you have established. Established
Deadpool
characters.
Was like 50, 60 million. That was the budget.
I want to say for this.
So maybe
I'm going to say 150 million budget, and it probably did like.
You're gonna like be so.
I don't even know, man. Look. I have accepted the fact that I don't know this kind of thing. So just,
okay. So you said 150 and 3 something.
150 budget and probably like 400 million gross worldwide.
Okay.
Maybe 4, maybe 5.
This was a pretty big deal because this was kind of at that point where I feel like Warner Brothers was gunning for MCU, and I kind of felt like Fox was really gunning for MCU, dollars. And I think this film had a pretty big budget. I'm I'm gonna say it was like 220, something like that. And this did pretty good at the box office.
It was it was well received. Yeah.
It was. So I mean, it wasn't $1 billion, I know that, but it was definitely one of the highest X-Men, highest grossing X-Men films. So I'm gonna go like 800.
Okay. Well, you were closer than Beard. It was.
I am happy to be wrong.
200,000
pretty
was
close on the budget.
estimated.
That was close-ish on the budget.
According to IMDb, this was 200,000, the budget, or 200 million, and then it made about 746. So you were close, Beard, or R2. So there you go. So I think it did really. I think it did really good.
This was definitely during a period of. Okay, there was a very large period of my life where I was not paying attention to movies, and this was on the tail end of it. So.
Well, I do want to jump to the comics real quick. So, yeah, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. In the movie, Wolverine goes back in time. In the comic, Kitty goes back in time. She gets sent, and she's the one that is trying to change trying to change the world.
Yep.
But Wolverine's staying behind to fight off the Sentinels like everyone else was doing.
He ends up getting blasted like Warpath does, like we see in the movie.
Yeah, he dies.
Yep.
All right. So yes, they do go. Like I said, there are two parts. You kind of mentioned this earlier, Beard. Was that there's like two movies in this? You have the 70s X-Men doing their thing, trying to stop, the Sentinels becoming a thing, and then you have the current X-Men, which I believe we said that it's kind of happened around 2020 or 2023, fighting off the Super Sentinels, and they're all teaming up. So you have like Iceman, you've got Kitty, you've got Colossus, which he's different looking in the one that's in Deadpool. So I wonder how that happened.
Yeah,
And
they
then-
definitely recast him there. I mean,
really-
it was nice to see some of the old cast come back. That's for sure.
They changed his entire look. And then you
Yeah.
have Storm, you have older Professor X, and so they're all kind of teaming up because it's they're trying to figure out how to stop these things, and they're hiding in some mountain temple somewhere. I don't even know. It's like in China. What do you think? It's in China somewhere? It looks
I
like
think it's China. Yeah. China.
China.
So, Beard, do you want to kind of, since you're the time traveler guru here, you kind of want to explain how they're doing this again?
So in this movie, Kitty Pryde's powers have evolved to the point where she can kind of send somebody's consciousness back into their older body. That's theorized in this because it's definitely different from in the comics, that she is not only phasing through physical objects, but she can phase through time and space. It's kind of a reach, I know, but still. So she's only been able to send like somebody like Bishop back a couple of weeks, and that's how they stay on the move, is they just go back a couple of weeks and move to a different location. To go back as far as they need to go to make the big change will basically scramble somebody's brain, and that's when Wolverine says, what if somebody's brain could heal from that? He says it a lot cooler than that, but that's kind of the thing, is basically send me back because I can heal from it.
Right.
So she sends his future consciousness back to the past to try to make changes that will prevent this horrible, dark future. Kind of like I alluded to earlier, Mystique wants to kill Bolivar Trask. They need to stop her from doing that, but in stopping her from doing that, they end up exposing humanity to what mutants are, so they panic and implement the Sentinel program anyway, and so they kind of still have to go after that and try to find a way out of that.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was a cool way of doing time travel, right?
Yes.
It was a lot different than the time travel we got in Avengers. So
yes, and specifically, one of my favorite things is that top left picture you've got there. is when Wolverine in the past is talking to young Professor X, trying to convince him, like, you need to like fight for this. And he's been dulling his mutant senses this entire time, and he's finally kind of like accepting, taking them back on. He says, look into my past, or look into my past, your future. He says, I don't need all your pain. He says, no, look further into your future.
Mhm.
And so by channeling through Wolverine's mind, he gets this brief conversation with his future self.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite points in the movie.
Yeah. And we'll get to it here in a little bit too, is they redo that again around the end. So, and I think that's really cool. It was really a really neat way of fixing yourself, right?
Yes.
Not gonna lie,
I mean, I think
kind of hoped he was gonna be like, "Oh my god, what happened to my hair?"
I mean, I think a lot of us would like to speak to our younger selves and say, hey, you could do things differently. But if they did things differently, would we end up being our future selves?
I would probably say this a
What
lot.
you've just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone in this room is now dumb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't play with that book of matches.
I would probably say that a lot. Okay, so now it's time for fun facts. Beard, are you ready?
Oh, yes.
You got your couple fun facts?
I got him. Let's go.
You have to impress the fun fact guru now, since he's on the show.
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
Fun facts. We don't put them on screen. We just talk. So, unlike what the master of fun facts does. But,
so let's start with the fact that, let's see here, Quicksilver's slow motion sequences was filmed mostly with practical visual effects, with high speed photography going up to 3,600 frames per second.
yeah. And I wish you would have told me that was your
using-
first one. That should have been your last fun fact, but it's okay. You'll
Well,
find out here in a minute.
We're only using CGI for certain objects that were in the air. So even like when like he would poke some dude's face and then you get the ripples on it, that was practical because they were just filming in high speed with a rig running him around the side.
That's so cool.
I love
that scene was so cool when he like slowed down time and when they're showing him running around, what it looks like to him, and the fact that he was like moving things around and like pushing their face. I remember when I saw this in the movie theater, a lot of people were laughing. Like a lot of people thought that was like a hilarious moment in the movie. It was a good part. So,
well, it very much made Marvel look lazy too, compared to what they did with their take of Quicksilver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just kind of made it seem like, oh yeah, I'm so much faster than everybody else, and like they had like the hammer go by, Thor's hammer go by him like real slow, and that was it. But like this was very inventive. I'm trying to think of another word to.
Well, and especially because they did it in a scene where the fire sprinklers were going off, so you had all the slow motion water that he was running through far faster than they were falling, like the drops are falling to the ground. It's a brilliant scene.
But also just, it's not only how fast he goes, it's how much fun he has doing it. Because as he's zipping around, he's like tasting food, he's stealing hats.
It's the world he actually lives in.
Yes.
The world that he lives in when people can
this
talk
is why
to
I
him
wanted to
is
like
slow to him.
This is why I wish you would have saved the Quicksilver thing for the end, for the last one.
Okay. You should have told me. Anyway.
And other than though, he looked ridiculous with the silver jacket and old man hair.
Yeah, he looked very cool. And yes, you're right. There were two Quicksilvers at some, but I'm going to respect Beard here because you have two more fun facts, right?
I have three more.
Oh, okay.
See, I bring extras because I'm sure we're going to touch on some of these, which this is one of them. In the days In the Days of Future Past comic, it was Kitty Pryde who went back in time. In the animated series, it was Bishop who went back in time. which we see in this movie, Kitty sending back in time previously. But as Kitty was intended to be the time traveler, it didn't really work out because in the era of young Magneto and Xavier, Kitty would have been about 20 years pre-born.
They kind of
She
joke
would
at that in the movie theater. In the movie, they kind of hint that like they can't send a younger.
Yeah, because she would have been basically non-existent. It was 20 years before she was even born. So, I mean, going with Wolverine, he was a popular character, still is, but also the argument that they make in the film that sending somebody's mind that far back could mess with it. It actually does make sense to go with somebody who has a severely overpowered healing factor.
And they, something happens to him where he loses his memory. So when he gets pulled out, that current 1970s,
they do tell him that there might be a little bit of scramble, especially if he gets too upset.
And they hint at that one time he was like, "Where am I? What the hell is going on?"
Yeah.
And when we watched Origins, that happened to him at the end where he got shot with that bullet, and he kind of like was like, "What the heck?" So he just has a lot of memory issues, Wolverine.
Yep, it's true.
So
we touched briefly on earlier, and I was about to get into before I remembered that I had it on my list, was Bryan Singer based the time travel in this movie on string theory. Quote, until an object is observed, it isn't really it hasn't really happened yet. The time traveler whose consciousness travels through time, I call the observer, and until the observer returns to where he traveled from, the result hasn't occurred yet. So he can muck about in the past, and it isn't until he snaps back to the new future that the new future is set. As a result, we have parallel action. There's underlying tension because there's always the threat that Wolverine's consciousness can return to the future and leave the world in an even darker place. And I think that was a really smart way to do time travel.
And that sounds familiar. We did, remember in last November, we did the JFK assassination show.
Yes.
It was the same way. Well, 11, what was it?
11/22/63.
Yeah, 11. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. That happened too. Remember, he went through the portal, he changed something, and then if he went back through the portal, it would leave it. But if he went back again, it would reset it. Remember?
Yeah.
So it was similar.
And I think
to that.
That was a really good way to do this movie, because that you do have the concurrent stories happening at the same time, and especially once you get towards the end of the film, you could bounce back and forth between both battles, and you get a lot of extra tension there that I don't think you would have if it was just you go back in time and do whatever you want, and we'll never talk about the future again.
Right.
So, anyway,
good stuff. Good job.
Yeah, last one.
Oh.
I said I have 4. This is a short one. I can't prove that this is true, but I'm just running with it. During filming, Bryan Singer had injured his vocal cords and could only speak without doing further damage to them by speaking in a falsetto. Thus, his orders on set led all actors and actresses to crack up at some point. Now, if people don't know what a falsetto is, that's a singing term. So if this were my normal voice, this would be a falsetto voice.
Nice.
So
wait, who did this?
Apparently Bryan Singer. It's like, cut. No, you need to do it faster.
Brings a whole new meaning to Bryan Singer.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess it does. Look, I said I can't prove that is true. It was on the list, and I thought it was hilarious, and I wanted to go with it.
That's funny. I was gonna say real quick, one of the best parts from this movie that I got the biggest kick out of was Beast makes the device that monitors all 3 networks and PBS.
Oh yes,
yeah, and
PBS.
All 4. Yep. And he goes, "Oh, only 4, only 3." Yeah, Wolverine. Yeah.
Oh, and PBS.
Yeah. So continue the Quicksilver discussion. Yeah, there were 2 Quicksilvers at this time. Quicksilver on the Avengers movie timeline, which came out in 2015 with Age of Ultron. I meant, And then you have ours, right? The one that's what we're talking about now. And I do agree. The one in Days of Future Past was way better. He actually got a reappearance, I think, a couple times, right? And he's in.
Well, they brought Evan Peters back as let me do heavy air quotes, as Quicksilver in WandaVision.
Ralph Boner.
Yeah.
But that was dumb.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was a
not
slap in
counting
the
that.
face. You're talking about Age
Okay.
of Apocalypse, though, and
Oh yeah,
the one he was in the last three. He was in this one.
Yeah.
He was in Age of Apocalypse, and then he was in
Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen those two, so I don't know anything about him.
He was good. A lot of people liked him. There was funny moments that he did. He wore the funny goggles.
Oh yeah, apparently in Age of Apocalypse they confirm that Magneto is actually his father.
Yeah, and there's a joke in this movie.
They allude to it in this movie.
He goes, "My mom
knew a guy that could control metal."
Yeah. So funny, and he kind of looks at him like, "What? Oh, yeah." And because in the comic books, that's true. Quicksilver is the father of, or not the son of Magneto. So
yep,
kind of funny.
Yeah. Well, then too, he's like, all right. He's like, hold your head back, or else you'll get whiplash. He's like, what? He's like, whiplash.
I do look. If I had to choose a Quicksilver between MCU and the Fox X-Men universe, I'm going with the Fox X-Men universe. That's definitely more Quicksilver, making the quips and having fun and existing in a whole different plane of existence than the rest of us.
Yeah, he was a fun character. Always enjoyed him. And then obviously Magneto is kind of wanting to control. We're getting to the end here. Magneto is trying to control the Sentinels for his own doings. He wants to use them against the humans. And you have like this epic battle in Washington, D.C., where he literally picks up RFK Stadium and drops it in the middle of the White House, which is that if you've been to that stadium, it's massive. It fits like 100,000 people, I think. It was like massive. The Washington Redskins played there. And he picks that up and then drops it. And then he's in his Magneto outfit, which I love. I love this outfit in the movies. The way he flies in it. It just reminds me so much of the cartoon TV show that was so awesome. So, and then he gets stopped by Mystique, because Mystique is kind of a good character in this movie too. She's kind of on the fence, right? She wants to hide, but she wants to hurt the humans because they've hurt her in the past. So,
yeah, her in this film. Bonus fun fact is that earlier on Trask says something like she could hide as a military officer, a Secret Service agent, or even you, Mr. President. And that's what she does. She hides as a Korean officer, or sorry, a Vietnamese officer. Then she hides as a Secret Service agent. And then towards the end of the film, she confronts Magneto as Richard Nixon, even though Richard Nixon is still huddled back behind everybody else in the crowd there.
Yeah, and Jennifer Lawrence, does a really good job again, but she changes heart there at the end because Professor X gets her to.
Well, she also saves Wolverine at the end too.
She does. She saves Wolverine, but that doesn't make any sense because he's supposed to end up somehow with Stryker, so he gets the medal because he would still have bones.
Yeah, I think what I saw was that
he's still supposed to go to Stryker.
I think Bryan Singer thought that going with the basically Stryker abducts Wolverine and goes with everything was too dark, so he wanted to have the Mystique's eyes in Stryker's face to be like, "Ooh, what happens now?" But we all know what happens now. That was one of the dumbest decisions.
It was very much that moment. The film ended like Thriller. Like the Jackson video.
Yeah.
He's supposed to end up somehow with Stryker, because I'm pretty sure, Rick, maybe you might know this. What movie do they show the newer alternate version of Weapon X? they show him like running around all crazed.
Oh, that's Age of Apocalypse, where
Okay.
they actually show him with like the battery box and the visor.
Yeah,
was-
so he ends up with this stuff somehow. So they just don't explain it very well. Maybe they will in the newer movie. I don't know, but I thought that scene was cool of Apocalypse. But anyways, yeah, they do end up stopping the Sentinels. They take them out. Everything gets changed. It's really cool how they do that, right? They show the parallel timelines. They go scene by scene. They like jump back and forth very quickly on how that changes. That goes along with what your theory was, Beard, with the parallel, right? And then if all of a sudden, once the event that's supposed to change everything, everyone disappears in the future and they go whatever happens.
And I think this is the only time, if I remember right from looking at like facts and things, I think that is the only time where Professor X mentally controls a mutant to use their power.
Yeah.
And it's to use Magneto to get this gridiron like off of his of Professor X's own body because he's dying basically. I think if I understand correctly, that is the only documented time where Professor X manipulated a mutant and used their own power kind of through them.
Yeah. He can do that.
Bonus fact.
And then you get to the end where Wolverine again wakes up like, where the heck am I? This looks familiar, but it doesn't look familiar, right? I think he wakes back up in 2023.
Yes.
Which would be weird because you would think, okay, because you know that someone can send your brain other places. So is this real or not real? You would question that a lot. You're kind of dazed. You're kind of confused.
And
then he sees the like love that he sees Jean Grey there, and he's like, "Wait, you're supposed to be dead."
Yeah, I mean, and it does.
All you people are dead.
I mean, not only that, like the appearance of Jean Grey and Cyclops were kept so secret that both the actors lied about it in press in interviews. But this does play to the whole Wolverine, like not knowing your past and being confused and having different memories and things like that. Kind of
because that happens. Yeah, because Professor X does try to help him in the cartoon a lot.
Yeah, because he basically is reconciled his past, then he goes back into it, changes the future, and then he realizes he's got 50 years that he doesn't know what has happened. Like that's what he's waking up with. His last memory is 1973.
He doesn't know how he got the medal. He doesn't know any of it, and he's just here now. So I'm curious. I don't remember what happens in Apocalypse. I might have to rewatch that on my own, and I don't remember really. The Rise of Phoenix movie, I think, messed up a lot of things that made this ending so cool. From what I remember, so I might have to rewatch those. But it was so neat to see the original cast in these movies, and I'm glad they brought in Cyclops and Jean here. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah,
and he thought that was great too. But and then he meets Professor X again, and he's like, "Hey," he's like the only one that knows what happened.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
Well, he's been waiting for that Wolverine
to come back.
To come back, and
hey, how's it going? yeah. And,
remember when you used to do mutant heroin?
Yeah, because he says something like, "What do you mean? You've got a class that's waiting for you in history," and he goes, "History? Now that's a subject that I could use a little bit of help on." And that's when you see the light in Professor Xavier's eyes kind of light up. He's like, "Oh, this is the moment."
Yeah, and who knows what he was like, right in between. So
I've been spinning around in this room for 30 years. Wait for you.
Yeah. For like the last 30 years, it's like every time like Logan or Wolverine would walk into his office, he'd go, "Oh God, please give me the guy who actually knows what's going on."
He's probably really dumb. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he's just confused a lot, angry and mad, right? Yeah. So we talked about this. We talked about this already a little bit. I want to kind of again. I wanted to show a little bit of reference to like why Deadpool, why that movie was able to kind of sort of happen. So Days of X-Men: A Future Past came out before Deadpool. It was 2 years prior. It basically reset the X-Men timeline, and it kind of erased, Origins. I don't know about all three X-Men movies. Maybe it did. The Wolverine movie, and then it gave us what we have now. The Apocalypse, Phoenix, Deadpool 1 and 2, and Logan, and then the next one that's coming out, Deadpool and Wolverine. So
now I
this
have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I was going to say, I'm not saying that you're wrong on any of this. I don't know if you found this or made this, but wouldn't Wolverine still be part of the same timeline that Logan's in? And the reason I say that is because Yoriku is the one who tells Logan how he's going to die in the Wolverine, and he dies the same way that she tells him.
So I didn't create this, but there's again, don't remember that movie, and again, I did not create this. If you search like X-Men timeline,
well, that's why I'm saying that. I didn't know if you put this together, and I didn't want to insult you. I was just saying I remember that part where she tells him how he's going to die, and that's how he dies in Logan.
I think you have to, especially with the early Marvel movies being as scattered as they were, you have to look at these as individual runs of comic books. And so, at least in this timeline, between Days of Future Past, 1973, and their version of 2023, Logan doesn't remember anything that happened during the Days of Future Past timeline. So there could have been a whole bunch of things that happened there that he just doesn't remember that still apply later on. But I do kind of agree with this timeline here.
And they all kind of, you can literally Google search this, and they all kind of look like this. Some of them were really hard to put on screen because they were very small. But like,
yeah, I mean, just in general, when you get to Wolverine timelines and varieties, because he's lived for so long and been so influential in all sorts of different stories, it's almost impossible to get one definitive answer.
Yeah, this is like one of the ones that made a little sense. Like the reason why we got Deadpool when we talked about this last week was because of this movie. Because, or sort of, we could have probably had a Deadpool without it, but
yeah, because at one point Deadpool even makes a joke about Professor X being James McAvoy or Patrick Stewart.
Yeah. So it allowed the writers to kind of make that Deadpool because you had that weird one in Origins, but it does basically reset a lot of this stuff. So, and who knows, maybe if you're anyone out there wants to make their own timeline, you can.
And actually, Deadpool was supposed to be in Days of Future Past, but was cut for time. I don't know his role in there, but he was supposed to come back.
Yeah. All right. So
at that TGI Fridays in Florida.
Yeah. Like always, we're going to rate this on Criticless.
While you're pulling that up, I want to mention Beard created a unique character. He called Kitty Pride Kitty Bribe earlier.
Yeah, we all messed up her name. It's kind of an insight. It's kind of.
I'm just saying. I'm like, I would kind of like to see that character. What's your power? I bribe people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all excited for the new movie. Hopefully I get to, I don't know if I'm going to see it the first week, but hopefully I get to see it. Then it's the reason kind of why we were reviewing these movies. So yeah, 2014 X-Men Days of Futures Past. All right. So this is criticless.com. Again, we add our reviews to Criticless, and you can too over there. And it's a cool site where you can put your own thoughts, and it's basically called Criticless because most of us are not critical. We're not critical. We're not critics. There you go. So, okay, where do you want to put this? I'm gonna start kind of like right here.
83.
Okay. I'm okay with a.
That was very quick.
I'm okay with a low 80s.
Okay.
This is better than it should be.
You're like,
let's be honest, with everything we've seen with Fox X-Men up to this point. Now, First Class was pretty good, but this was way better than it should have been.
Yes, and I don't know. I think they did pretty good. I liked First Class. I enjoyed that. I'm like, oh, cool. This is a new way of telling their story, right? And it worked.
Mm.
And
but
this
actually
one kind of
weaving both of them, like the future in the cast that we had known previously from the previous movies, with this other younger cast, they did it really well.
Yeah, but when First Class came out, a lot of people were like questioning, like, is this the same timeline? Is this different? Like, because there were some inconsistencies there too. This movie made that, all kind of work. So, because of those other movies.
It helps when Bryan Singer basically looked at X2 and X3 and said, I didn't direct those, they don't exist, and did his own thing.
Yeah, and Last Stand was not that great. So anyways, we'll just leave it at an 82. I'll do it that. Okay. There's not really a lot of graphic language. I think there's a little bit from Wolverine.
It's a little bit, not much.
There's some violence. Do you classify blue nudity? A bit of nudity with blue?
Wolverine does show his ass again in this movie.
So more Hugh ass.
More huge ass.
Family. I would say it's a little bit family friendly.
Let's say, yeah.
Political bias. You should just say Nixon.
So slightly right. Okay, you're funny. All right, there we go.
Nixon,
we will.
Enough said.
All right, I'll add there you go. So we got our review in on Criticalist, 82% most excellent. And I'll add the link there later after we're done. So there you go. X-Men Days of Future Past. Fun movie. I do recommend watching this if you haven't. I mean, it's not that old. I guess people might
you don't even have to watch all of the other films that came before it.
No, you don't, because
it's pretty standalone.
Well, you would probably have to watch First Class.
I don't think you actually need to. It does enough explaining.
What?
I said, just remember, watch the Rogue cut if you can.
Yes.
Okay. I agree. I thought you said something else. I don't know what you said, but I thought you said something else. I don't know.
Whatever it was, don't repeat yourself, because he has a clip. He's looking at it.
No, I'm not. All right, everyone. We're going to wrap it up here. So, Beard, word on the street is you're going to be on my channel for a very special episode this Wednesday night. And we are going to talk about more Art Bell. If he's no longer with us, Howard, he was a great radio broadcaster. And he did this thing called Open Lines, where he would let people call in and say the weirdest stuff. He never screened his calls either. So we're going to review, I think, 4 of those calls. Some of them are really great.
Only there was a way for JT to set up his own open line number and take calls.
There's possibilities.
A Google phone number?
There is possibilities. Maybe one day we can do it.
Don't promise anything. Don't promise anything.
Back then, he got away with that because there wasn't so much strict stuff people couldn't say. So, but anyways, we're going to review that over there on Late Night with Cap. So I think the link is in the channel description of After the Weekend. You can find it there, or you can just search Late Night with Cap and find me. So I think you're going there, right? But are you doing anything tomorrow night?
Tomorrow I'll be over with Jacob Ironside, Untamed Mando, and Shield Wall of Dragons for Alfred Hitchcock's The Wrong Man. And then Thursday,
the right man?
We'll find out.
Okay.
Thursday I'll be with Roman of the Empire and the panel for our finale of The Acolyte.
Oh, they're already ending that movie or show.
You know what?
Beard, are you going to need therapy after this is over?
No. Thursday is our therapy. I've long since just let go. I've disassociated. It's now like weird 90s British comedy for me. It's not Star Wars. It's something you tune into on PBS and go, that's funny, I think, but also not. And then you move on.
When it became quirky British humor? Is that what you're saying?
British humor is actually as quirky and awful as it is sometimes better than what they come up with.
Anyway, the IT crowd was funny. I like that one.
There's a couple other places I might show up this week. I haven't confirmed anything, so people can follow me on X at BeardOfLiberty. Plus, I'm trying to do occasional gaming streams on my own channel.
Or on here.
On YouTube. Here,
or on here.
Whenever we have it available. But I think I'm probably going to do one in an hour or two after this ends.
Very cool. All right. So, well, everyone's got to go follow Beard over there and check it out.
Yeah, go follow me and pretend like I know what I'm doing.
That's what I do. Rick, it's good to have you here, man.
Thanks.
I'm glad you came by. We do miss talking about movies with you.
I got the family in town. They're all busy doing stuff downstairs, so I was able to sneak up here and hop on.
Ignore your family and hang out with us.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is the way.
Good job. Well, anyways, everyone, if you want to, I don't know what have we decided? I don't think we decided yet what we're reviewing for next Monday. We haven't
settled yet. We'll chat about it afterwards and let people know online.
We may or may not have a Saturday show. Maybe Beard will do another game. I don't know. So we'll see. All right, everyone. But hit that bell so you're notified when we do go live. And if you're new, please subscribe. That'd be great. And we'll catch you later. And have a fun rest of the week. And we'll see you next time on After the Weekend.
Truck to refrigerators to dumpster, 360 spin onto the palace, backflip gainer into the trash.
This is it. Man, big stuff. Just relax and have fun. Just gonna have fun with it.